They don't storm out of your life. They evaporate. And by the time you notice, they've usually been gone for months. No farewell text. No big speech. Here's what's really going on. The 5 reasons deep thinkers pull away from almost everyone. And the final reason is the one everybody gets wrong. Because our culture runs on performative friendliness. Stay visible, stay upbeat, keep replying. That's the price of admission. And some people simply stop paying it. The chair at the table just quietly stops being filled. Maybe you've watched someone do this. The friend who used to text back in minutes and now takes days. The coworker who faded off the group thread mid-conversation. Or maybe, be honest, you're the one who's been quietly backing out of the room. If that's you, you're not broken. You're following a pattern psychologists understand surprisingly well. Let's walk through it. Reason 1. At some point, the pattern spotting switch flips on, and it never flips back off. You start noticing things you can't unnotice. The friend whose eyes drop to her phone the second your story stops being entertaining. The "we should hang out soon" that both of you know is just a polite way of saying goodbye. The invitation that only arrives when somebody needs a +1, a ride, or a favor dressed up as a catch-up. None of it is dramatic betrayal. That's what makes it so tiring. It's all so ordinary. Small, repeated proof that a lot of what gets called friendship is really convenience with better branding. And once you see the difference between attention and connection, you can't pretend they're the same thing anymore. You don't hate anyone. You just stop volunteering for interactions that were never about you. That's the first quiet step backward. The second one runs deeper. Reason 2 starts on an ordinary Friday night in Austin. Marcus is 29. His college group chat, they call it the herd, mostly pings him for Venmo splits and airport pickups these days. But tonight there's an actual invitation on his screen, and he starts typing an apology. "Sorry, I'm just..." deletes it. Types, "Can't tonight, next time," sends. Then he drops back onto the couch with cold pad tie and the same Vonnegut paperback he's read 4 times, fantasy football tab still open on his laptop. 20 minutes later, the herd reacts to his message with 1 thumbs up. No follow-up. Nobody asks if he's okay. Mostly because everyone assumes Marcus is fine, and honestly, that assumption is doing a lot of work tonight. By 10, the chat is a stream of blurry bar photos he scrolls past without opening. And the couch, the pad tie, the book? That was the plan all along. He knew he'd say no before he finished reading the invite. And here's the part nobody admits out loud. The first thing Marcus felt when he hit send wasn't guilt. It was relief. That relief matters because his nervous system logged it as a reward. And a brain that gets rewarded for avoiding will quietly ask to avoid again. That's not a character flaw. That's a loop. Remember the loop. It comes back later. But why was the invitation exhausting in the first place? Because deep thinkers don't just hear conversations. They process them. Every tone shift, every half-truth, every gap between what someone said and what they meant. Psychologist Mark Snyder called part of this high self-monitoring constantly tracking the distance between the self you're performing and the self you actually are. Living in that gap is expensive. Cognitive load, the sheer amount your brain juggles at once, roughly doubles when you're having a conversation and auditing it at the same time. That's why 2 hours at a party can flatten you harder than a full workday. So the accounting changes. The question stops being, how many people know me, and becomes, who actually understands me? Attention, you start to realize, is currency, and where your attention goes, that's the real ledger of your life. Reason 3. Somewhere along the way, you stumble into the most freeing idea in psychology, and it comes from Carl Jung. People aren't really reacting to you. They're reacting to themselves, projected onto you. Jung called it projection. The coworker who mocks your quietness is usually wrestling with his own noise. The friend who calls you too much is often afraid of how little she lets herself think. The person demanding constant attention is, underneath it all, terrified of being left. Once that clicks, you stop taking the bait. You stop defending yourself in arguments that were never about you. And from the outside, that restraint reads as cold, as arrogant, as disappearing. Jung had a second idea that cuts even closer. We all carry a persona, the polished character we play in public, and underneath it, a self. Most people never notice the difference. Deep thinkers can't stop noticing it. And standing in the space between a mask you've outgrown and a life that fits the real you, that space is quiet. From the outside, that quiet looks exactly like vanishing. Quick pause. If you've ever typed out a "sorry, can't make it," deleted it, and rewritten it 3 times, tell me in the comments. Honestly, that one sentence says more than most personality tests. And stay with me, because the final reason is the one even people who love you get wrong. Reason 4. This is where everyone misreads the story. They assume anyone who steps back this far must be lonely. But what deep thinkers fall in love with isn't being alone. It's clarity. There's a real difference. In solitude, thoughts get to finish. You read, you walk, you finally hear what you think without 3 notifications editing it mid-sentence. Psychologists have found that intentional solitude strengthens emotional regulation, your ability to steady your own weather instead of renting calm from other people's approval. So the person you think vanished? They're often more present than they've ever been, just not to an audience. They stopped measuring their worth in invitations. For the first time in years, the signal is louder than the noise. But, and this matters more than anything else in this video, there's a trap here. Solitude and isolation wear the same clothes. Solitude is resting so you can return. Isolation is hiding with the door locked from the inside. And a comfort zone, left alone long enough, stops being a sanctuary. It shrinks into a cell you decorated yourself. Some of you watching aren't protecting your peace. You're hiding. And calling it peace hurts less. That part never makes it into the aesthetic quote posts. The relief loop we watched Marcus fall into, it doesn't care whether it's protecting you or shrinking you. It just wants another hit. One honest caveat, because it matters. Sometimes withdrawal isn't wisdom. It's depression, burnout, or anxiety wearing wisdom's jacket. The difference is intention. Choosing 2 deep friendships over 40 shallow ones is health. Feeling unable to face anyone at all is a signal to reach out. To a friend, a doctor, a therapist. Intentional is powerful. Automatic is a warning light. Which brings us to the final reason. The one even the people who love you get wrong. Deep thinkers don't disappear overnight. They disappear one small decision at a time. The night you stop re-explaining yourself to someone who decided years ago not to understand you. The week you finally quit chasing a friendship that only breathes when you're useful. There's no exit scene, just a slow settling into the truth. So here's the reframe the internet keeps missing. It was never running away. They didn't leave the world. They finally came back to themselves. You're allowed to build a life that fits who you really are, not the character you've been performing. So if you've been pulling back and wondering whether it's wisdom or hiding, here are 3 things you can do this week. Step 1. Swap the wall for a boundary. Don't cut everyone off. Curate. Keep the 2 or 3 people you never have to perform for and give them real time, on purpose. Step 2. Send 1 text today to the one person who makes your nervous system go quiet. Isolation shrinks by exactly 1 message at a time, and so does the loop that caught Marcus. Step 3. And this is the strongest one. Once a month, name your quiet honestly. Ask yourself, am I resting to return or am I hiding? Say the answer out loud. You can't course correct a pattern you refuse to name, and the people who stay free are the ones who keep checking which one they're in. As for Marcus, the herd still pings about Venmo, and he still answers. He's not bitter. But on Tuesday nights, there's a standing dinner with 2 friends who ask what he's actually thinking, and then let him finish. Nothing dramatic changed. Everything important did. Now, has a deep thinker quietly faded out of your life? Or have you been the one fading? Tell me which one in the comments. I genuinely want to know which side of this you're on. Your time is finite. Your energy is finite. Your attention is the most expensive thing you own. Spend all 3 like it. And if this found you at the right moment, subscribe. because next time we're unpacking why the people who understand everyone else are so rarely understood themselves.